This week, I'm sharpening my battle axe and jumping back into AC Valhalla for their new DLC, Dawn of Ragnarok.
By invaders of frost and flame.
Everybody.
All Father, they have your son. His fate hangs in the balance.
This week, I'm checking out the third DLC installment for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Dawn of Ragnarok. And let me tell you, this one doesn't come cheap. Ubisoft has priced this one at $49.99 Canadian just for the actual DLC. That's the price almost of a full game. That to me was the first hang up here. We're going to get into how I feel about this overall, but as a DLC, Ubisoft has made this available to play as its own standalone game, even if you haven't played the original game. If you have played the game, if you're level 340, you'll be able to jump into the DLC right away. And if you aren't level 340, you can actually take your current character at whatever power level they're at and still start the DLC. They're just going to kind of do a prorated level up for you so you can kind of take care of the enemies, especially when you first get into the DLC. We're looking at about 35 total hours of story, and that's a lot. That's fairly substantial. We're looking at some full title games aren't giving you 35 total hours, so the $50 price tag is somewhat justified. And the reason I say somewhat is because this is still Assassin's Creed Valhalla. We are in that world, whether it be the world of Svartalheim, like the one we're in now, which is more of a mythological world where we're not kind of in Paris or we're in Ireland. So there is a few things here that you have to take into consideration when you do purchase this DLC, is you are going to be getting some of the same. I mean, we are playing the same game here. There are some new mechanics, which we'll get into a little bit later, but my first impressions overall, honestly, were I was excited to jump into this. It's been a few months since I've played any Assassin's Creed, so being able to get in on this DLC and kind of explore this new storyline, which was my big hook for the other DLCs and the original story, was just the storyline overall. I kind of get hooked on the characters. I really enjoy Eivor's quest. In this one, we're taking the boots of Havi or Odin because we're going into Valka's hut, doing a bit of a vision quest style thing, and now we're headed into this dream world where this entire DLC takes place. So you're starting off in Odin's shoes here, and you're on your way to try to save your captured son Baldur. He's been captured by this giant fire monster Surtur and his daughter Sinmara, and the idea here is you're going to use the help of the dwarves from Svartalheim, the world you are now in this dream state, and you're going to try to help these dwarves out and let them help you try to get your son back from Surtur. And let me tell you, you run into Surtur right at the beginning of this storyline, and you have to battle him, and let me tell you, it's not easy. They make it fairly difficult. They don't give you a whole lot in on that. It is kind of that first boss battle when you first jump in. Maybe I'm shaking a little bit of rust off because it's been a few months since I played. Let me tell you, it challenged me right off the hop.
It's been too long since you and I crossed blades. Then let's make this the final.
So as with the base game and the other DLCs, we are getting some more skill tree nodes. And let me tell you, as far as RPG games are concerned, this is actually one of the larger skill trees I've ever seen in a game. I thought the original game had a big skill tree, and then every DLC seems to be adding more and more nodes to the three main trees that you use. So I kind of like that. It does add a kind of another element into the game. You keep increasing your power level as you go through. But honestly, this isn't actually the biggest, newest mechanic here when it comes to this DLC. We're actually getting Hugr-Rip abilities, which is something that you use throughout the game. You kind of been gifted a bracelet or a bracer from the dwarves, and allows you to harness the power of the Muspels to be able to kind of traverse this new world that you're in, because there's lava flows and all different kinds of things in this world that you can't normally traverse. So having this bracer allows you to use the Muspel energy to do all different kinds of things. Well, whether it's portal, you can actually use it to disguise yourself as a Muspel so you can kind of travel throughout within them and not be detected. You can also just use it to allow yourself to basically throw a Muspel feed on and you can walk on the lava. Like, these are cool mechanics that the original game didn't have, but they do still feel similar enough to the mechanics already in the game to make it feel comfortable to pick up some of these new techniques and abilities. One thing I'm going to give Ubisoft credit on this one is the fact that Svartalheim, the world that we're exploring here, is beautiful. Every DLC, even the main game, the environments is always something that's caught my eye. They've done such a good job at making you feel so immersed in these worlds. And this DLC is no different. You're going to be helping the dwarves out. You're going to be fighting moose spells. Yes, there is kind of that mythological feel to it. You are a little more disconnected than from the European storylines that you play throughout this game in the DLCs. But honestly, this environment was just so awesome to be a part of and be in and explore. They did such a good job here. And if I had to kind of sum this all up, is I did enjoy my time in AC Valhalla, Dawn of Ragnarok. But if you've played a ton of this game like I have, you know you're 120 plus hours in already. This is a lot of the same. Some of the missions feel the same, even with the Hugr-Rip abilities. It doesn't change the game up enough for me to really make it feel fresh and new. So if this is your first DLC, it may be worth the $50 to jump in and play this one. For me, if I've got to score this out of 10, I'm probably going to give it a 6, because just for me, it feels too much of the same. Some of the missions are the same. The world is beautiful. The abilities are cool. But again, it is just a lot of the same. New combat mechanics and a well-designed world will have you enjoying this more mythical version of Assassin's Creed. Similar mission styles to the main story and repetitive combat can make this 35-hour DLC seem long at times.
For death is at your heels, and you know not the hour it will find you.
Shinara!